Hey guys, Rich Lopez with the Droptine Traditions podcast. I'm no longer going to give you episode numbers because I'm banking episodes so I can get bow work done in between. Um, my guest tonight is Mr. Billy Berger, author, primitive bowyer, and survivalist. Those of you that subscribe to Traditional Bowhunter magazine would know of his articles. So welcome, Billy.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor and a pleasure. But before we continue, I want to conduct a little business and say thanks to my supporters, which is Traps Feather Rests, Daryl Damron, also a Missouri biologist, Traditional Bowhunter Magazine. I mean, my Bible since day one. Sauk Trail Archery, StickbowSupplies.com, Whiskey City Trad Gear or WCTrad.com, Jessie Savage Blacksmith.com. Dude, if anybody's into iron or making stuff out of metal, check them out. Uh, traditionaljunk.com. If you want a used bow, a good used bow, reach out to Kevin over there. St. Joe River Bow, Austin and Courtney. Theethicalpredator.com. And lastly, stickbowhuntsmx.com. My place to go, my go-to place for javelina, hogs, cows, deer, coos, deer, whatever you want to call them. Uh, but thank you guys. So, Billy, just give our listeners a basic or a brief born and raised, etc.
Born in New York, moved down to Georgia right before I turned 6. And I guess what started me on the whole traditional bow hunter and primitive archery that I've gotten into was I was up in Virginia deer hunting with my dad, and I was about 10 years old, and he happened to talk to a guy and said, "Hey, I know where you can find arrowheads." Well, I'd never found one before and was chomping at the bit to find one.
Right.
So dad got directions. We drove out there, and after about 30 minutes of searching, I found the base of a broken quartz arrowhead. And it was a little side notch thing. And I showed it to my dad. I said, "Dad, is this one?" And he said, "Oh my gosh, yes, it is." And he freaked out. And ever since then, I was hooked and wanted to know not only how these things were made, but how to make them myself.
Sure.
So I started with the arrowheads and making arrowheads. And then it took I sound like an old man, but it's like back in my day, we didn't have the internet. So it was obscure books. The Art of Flint Knapping by D.C. Waldorf, I think, was the only book out there that had anything to do with this kind of topic. So I read it so many times the pages fell out and ended up learning over time and practice how to make arrowheads. And then once I was able to make them sharp enough where I thought they were functional, then I just branched out. Well, how'd they make the arrows? Well, how'd they make the bows? Well, they carried this stuff in a traditional buckskin quiver. How'd they tan the hides? How'd they start fire without matches? How did they make pottery? How'd they make traps? How'd they make cordage? And so it went from one skill to another to another. And as I mastered one skill, it just was inspiration to jump onto another one. And so I just learned a myriad of different skills that people will use back in the day to survive.
So, in your travels at that point in time in life, did you ever become familiar with guys like Mike Yancey, Jay Massey?
Not until much later. No,
Okay.
not until the Bowyer's Bibles came out, and
Okay.
then I became familiar with those guys, and I'd seen Mike Yancey's work, some of his articles in Traditional Bow Hunter, and then also in Primitive Archer magazine when that was around. And so I know of them. A lot of these guys I've never actually met personally or never spoken with them, but I know who they are.
Yeah, Mike, I know he's a big flatbow guy. Or,
Yeah.
the wide limb, and I don't even know what tribe that is prevalent to. I think mostly the Midwest to the Western side of things. That was pretty historically evident. Um, it's just, because I've got a library of all sorts of stuff. I've dabbled into everything. Laminated bows, recurves, long bows, self bows. I've made three Osage self bows, backed them, everything. They've exploded, some of them. It's fun. It's just what I live for. Um, what is your profession? I mean, full time. What do you do full time?
I work in media, so I've worked in TV productions for years and worked on live
Okay.
TV productions. That's another thing I'll also have an interest and a passion in was doing video and video productions and editing and creating content. So I went to college for that and then learned video editing and all of that, and then got editing software and just started shooting my own videos and wasn't really I was just doing it just to spread the passion, to spread the knowledge and the information about this stuff because not a lot of this stuff was out there. When I got in to doing this stuff in YouTube was 2009 is when I first created my YouTube channel. So it was one of the first few ones that were out there. Now there's a whole bunch, but um, created my channel and just started making content to spread the knowledge. And what I was trying to do was to produce quality edited material and videos,
Mhm.
not to promote myself, but to promote the fact that I knew how to shoot video and edit video so that possibly somebody might pick me up as an employer and say, we need you to shoot video, we need you to edit or
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
And so I tried to do that to show that I was good behind the camera, but then I guess I caught the attention of some Discovery Channel producers,
Yeah, you did.
and so they reached out to me about some survival shows that they had going on, and they said, "Man, we think you'd be a perfect fit." So this was for a show called I-Caveman, which came out in 2011. And it was about 10 people were to live like cavemen and to replicate approximately 20,000 years ago in the Paleolithic time frame to see if modern people had what it took to survive like our caveman ancestors did. And so I
Maybe
got,
a handful of people. Maybe a handful.
yeah, yeah,
By today's standards.
yeah. But it was a couldn't have been a more perfect fit for me. And then I guess I made an impression. And so about a year and a half later, they contacted me again about doing another survival show where we were supposed to be naked.
Nice.
I'll end it right
Yeah.
there. I don't want to go too far down
Well, that's fine because I showed both of those episodes. I showed I Caveman and the Naked and Afraid episode to my wife last night, and she looked at me and she goes, "That man is a maniac." I said, "Well, he might be a maniac, but he knows what he's doing." And they don't put people in harm's way unless they know what they're doing.
Yes,
Really, there's a lot of liability involved.
sure.
So before we get there, how did you get introduced to archery anyway? Was it just you? Just looking for something to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always been interested in archery. Remember I had a little fiberglass recurve bow
Hmm.
that I had when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I used to shoot that thing around and shoot at dragonflies. When I put little
Oh
suction
wow.
cups on the end of
Yeah.
arrows, I'll shoot dragonflies where we lived because we lived on a lake. And then just once I got into that, I thought, man, well, I want to make a bow the way the old guys did. And
Hmm.
so my dad got me a book, Bows and Arrows of the Native Americans by Jim Ham.
I have that book.
That was my first foray into bow making. And so my dad got me an Osage orange stave, and then we made a bow and sinew backed it and all that. And then once I made that one first successful bow, it was just off to the races. I wanted to make more, and I wanted to, like I said, learn
Yeah.
how to make not just the
It's
bow.
almost an illness
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because I'm constantly like I work full time. However, I'm allotted two 15-minute breaks a day besides my lunch, and I'm in the shop just playing with archery stuff.
yeah,
Grinding laminations, whatever. Yeah, my wife goes, "Don't you want something to eat?" I said, "Nah, I ain't got time for that."
yeah,
You know, it's like bronchitis. I ain't got time for that.
yeah.
So that's cool. So I interviewed you for my website 11 years ago, and that was back in before video. I think it was before YouTube, um, where I sent you a Word document and with questions, you filled them out. And I was at a point where I was going to just narrate it, do a narrative online. I said, I got to reach out to him. And you finally responded. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And you're here now. So thank you again.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Man, it's 11 years. So what's happened since in 11 years since Naked and Afraid? What have you been doing? Because I've noticed you've been doing a lot of tiny points, real
Yes.
microscopic points. I'm like, my
Yeah.
God, what kind of tedious insanity is involved in making something that's small? I would lose my mind.
Well, I've always been into making the small arrow points.
Okay.
A lot of these modern flint knappers, they'll take a big block of stone, they'll bust it up to make a big blade or two blades, and they have this big showpiece. But for me, that it seemed like a lot of a waste
Hmm.
because a lot of the flakes, it's like you collect the stone, you bust it up, and you make this one blade, but you've got hundreds of flakes that are usable for points, maybe even small knife blades, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I could
Okay.
just go around. I don't know, I've always been captivated by those little, small, exquisite arrow points. I've seen some authentic ones from the West Coast and from the Midwest, and I just think they're so cool because I'm a bow hunter and I use them. So I could make a big blade, and then what do I do with it? Well, I put it in a case somewhere. I don't really have any use for it. But those smaller points, not a lot of people do them. And I've always kind of been,
I've never seen them until yours.
yeah, I'm not, like I said, a lot of these guys will do the big work because it's big and it's showy. But I've always kind of been somebody who's walked a different path. And whenever I
Mhm.
see a bunch of people doing something, I'm gonna do something different. So I always have, but I've always been captivated, like I said, by those little small arrow points. And so I've used them. I found some, in archaeological digs when I used to work in archaeology, and just was fascinated by them putting that little arrow point on an arrow and actually shooting them. And
Well,
so it was
like
something I could
for
use.
birds, squirrels, small game,
Hmm.
perfect. I mean, I know you love squirrels, so that's
Yes,
perfect for what you're going after.
it is. And actually,
Not a lot of damage to the meat.
no, that's true. That's true. Now, usually what's funny is a lot of people think that a lot of those smaller points are actually bird points because they're small.
Mm.
In actuality, they've done some blood protein analysis on some of these things from different sites, and they find that a lot of these test positive for big game, like deer or elk or bighorn sheep,
Wow.
pronghorn antelope. And I think what it is a lot of those old guys. Um, they didn't need a big point. They knew how to get close. They knew where the animals moved.
Right.
They knew when they moved. They just needed a weapon that could cover those last few yards. And also they're not, a lot of times they weren't shooting very heavy arrows or very high poundage bows. I think, and I've seen a number of authentic bows in museums, and the estimated draw weight of those can be anywhere from 35 to 45 pounds. Well, if you got a short bow and you're shooting, let's say, a lightweight reed arrow, if you had a big honking point on the end of it, it would literally bounce right off the side of the
Right.
deer.
It slows. It's like a giant bumper. It's just like
Yes.
it's. Ugh.
And
So I would imagine these little bloodletters, if you will,
yeah,
would yield an incredible blood loss because they're sharp. I've never experienced anything sharper than a stone point.
yes. There's something about them and the edges, the way those edges are serrated.
Hmm.
And I've shot a number of game animals with them, big game, small game. And I think it might have something to do with those serrations where as that point's going through, it almost pulls the skin up to it as it's going through
Hmm.
because it doesn't slice quite like a scalpel.
Right.
It's almost like a very, very sharp, very fine saw.
Right.
And um, and
It's a
so
rip, but it's very fine.
and I've also noticed that it seems to open up a wound channel that can be anywhere from 20 to 30% wider than the point itself. Um, Now, one thing I have noticed with big game that I have shot, depending on where you hit them, what I find is a lot of times you don't have a real heavy blood trail, at least for my personal experience. It tends to
Mhm.
be a little bit lighter. However, it's light, but it's consistent enough that you can follow it. The only
Sure.
time I really had a heavy blood trail was when I shot a deer in the heart. It was little basket rack 10-point buck. He wasn't that big, but I shot at him with a stone point. It was probably about 3/4 of an inch, maybe 7/8 of an inch wide, and it hit him low in the chest, right above the brisket, and the point ended up going through the side of his heart, and he ran maybe about 40 yards. And that one, it was, drop, 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 splatter, drop, 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 splatter as I was tracking him.
Sure.
But he was down quick, and that was a very heavy blood trail. But for the most part, a lot of times and I don't know what it is about that. Maybe it's just the way the stone point is or the shifting of the tissues, but I don't personally get a very heavy blood trail. But like I said, it's consistent enough. If you hit them right with those stone points, every time I've ever hit an animal, if I've hit them right, they've never gotten away. I've always recovered the animal. It's with bad shots, maybe my accuracy wasn't on, or I hit them in the bad spot or whatever.
Yeah, and we all have them. We all
Yeah,
have them.
yeah,
If you're a traditional hunter, primitive hunter, I don't care who you are, you're going to have a
yeah.
loss.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. It's just the name of the game.
Yeah. So primitive pathways, how did how did that start?
It was just a name I came up with. Primitive pathways, follow the footsteps of your ancestors,
Mhm.
is something I'd been kicking around for years, and I that was my YouTube name when I originally started.
Okay.
And I thought somebody is going to end up. I don't know. It just kind of had a ring to it. Primitive pathways. I thought I liked it,
Oh, I love it.
and then I ended up coming up with, well, if I'm going to do a website, I don't want somebody to steal that name and take a website that was based off of my original YouTube name. So I locked down the domain name, and then I created the website where I sell some of my arts and crafts and museum quality reproductions online.
Yeah, I've been on your website 100 times, and I'm looking at some of these points of just absolute works of art. I'm like, I'd be afraid to even use it on a game animal. But then again, I would not be doing you justice unless I did harvest something with it and
Sure.
send you the picture.
Yeah, I mean that's what they're made and that's what they're used for. It's funny that the stone points are actually one of the most disposable parts of the archery gear.
Yeah.
Probably why you find a lot of them out there if you're in the right area. They shoot them, break them, throw them down, and then just replace it with another one. They were constantly going through them,
Oh,
using
sure.
them for knives and spear points and dart points and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, I've dabbled in napping years ago. I mean, I messed around with, and it was the usual suspects: chert,
yeah.
obsidian. That's what we all start out at, and it was fun, but I don't have the patience. So I abandoned it. And, I did make a self bow with help from instruction from John Strunk,
Okay.
and it was an Osage flat bow. Yeah, but it was snaky and it had a big ass knot hole
Okay.
right at the sight window area. So that was my sighting system. So I put some dental floss with an X going
Oh,
through
wow.
there, and it was fun. It was fun until it blew up. Um, nothing lasts long, and if you make it yourself, it is what it is. Um, so primitivepathways.com is how people can reach you.
Yes, that's my website, and you can
Yep.
browse some of the stuff that I make on there. And I've got, let's see, stone hunting points. I've got museum quality replica that I've really been selling a lot of those lately. So I've been into a bunch of different museums across the country. I've been into
Hmm.
the Smithsonian on numerous occasions, into their collections. So not the actual museum itself, but a place called the Museum Support Center, which is about 30 minutes north of Washington, D.C. You have to have an appointment to go in there. And they will, when you set up your appointment, they'll give you a list of what you want to look at. You have to be pretty specific because they have untold numbers of artifacts in there. If you say, I just want to look at some moccasins, I mean, you'd be in there for a year.
Wow.
Only 1/2 of 1% of what they actually have is on display. They have incredible stuff in there. So I've gone in there and gone into this area, and like I said, you have to have an ethnology specialist go with you. They'll send you a list. You select on the list what you want to look at. It's got catalog numbers. They'll take you to the place where it is. They've got big metal filing cabinets, big ones, stacked one on top of the other, stacked too high. and they'll unlock the door and they'll pull the drawers out, and there's bows and arrows.
Oh
There's
my
peace
God.
pipes from the Arapaho. There's stuff from all over the country. There was an Arapaho, Cheyenne Arapaho peace pipe that had a bowl made out of red catlinite, and you could still smell the tobacco in it. And this was
Oh
collected
my
in the late
God.
1800s. You could hold
That's
it. I
amazing.
was actually able to hold it, and you can hold
Did
this.
you have to wear the white gloves?
Yes, had to wear the white gloves, but you lay that stuff on a table and you can put a tape measure down on it and you can take pictures of it. And so that's what I have. I have books and books and binders of all kinds of reference material. So with measurements and detailed photographs so that I can go in there. If I make something, I copy it to the T as close as I can get it to the original.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because a couple of years ago, I'm going to go back, no, more than that, it's 25, 20, 30 years ago. I put an ad because I lived in Baltimore. I put an ad in DC papers and Baltimore papers, archers seeking primitive archery equipment. That's it. Boom. Man, and this is pre-internet,
Wow.
pre-text messages, any of that. So I'm getting phone calls and hey, yeah, my uncle's got a bunch of stuff. Come and take a look at it. I showed up at this guy's house and he had, are you familiar with the name Asham? An Asham, which is basically like a piece of furniture that is tall, that looks like an independent cabinet.
Not familiar, no, not really, but
Okay, well, back in, I guess, the late 1800s, these were like not mobile, but they were pieces of furniture called Ashams, which were tall and basically people hung their bows in there and their arrows,
oh,
and it
okay.
was designed for archery equipment. Well, this guy goes, well, a whole bunch of stuff in there, and there was all these U and Osage uh, self bows from the 1800s
Oh,
with
wow.
the arrows. They were footed arrows, phenomenal. You know, the craftsmanship was insane.
Yeah.
I said, "What do you want for this stuff?" He goes, $100. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So
Wow.
I loaded my truck and took it home and brought it home. My wife was like, "What is this?" I said, "Don't worry about it. It's just going to take up some room, but whatever." I contacted the Smithsonian and I spoke to their guy there, name slips me. Sent him pictures of what I had because there was email then, and he goes, "You need to come here." So I loaded everything up in my truck, went there, and we settled on an undisclosed amount of money,
Hmm.
and that stuff is in their museum now.
Do you know, were they Native American? Uh, Oh,
England,
English. Oh,
England.
wow.
Yeah, not
Okay.
no Native American anything. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, yeah. I mean, Native American would be like, oh my God, that's a holy grail.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was amazing. Um, now I'm very familiar with your writing with traditional Bowhunter magazine. Um, do you have any plans to write a book? Because you've got so much content, it's insane.
I've had a number of people inquire about that and say I should write a book.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, big time.
I I don't know. I haven't really taken that up yet. Maybe I will at some point in the future. Um, Man, the thing is, like, I've got so much stuff going on as far as like trying to produce videos for YouTube, keeping up with arrow orders and all these orders that people are ordering off my website.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, trying to shoot video and make stuff and trying new things. And so I just don't have the time at this point
Mhm.
to sit down and do that. And like for example, I whenever I work on these full length videos, so I will make and release full length videos every so often. I think I've done three or four, something like that. I mean, it's like a Hollywood production. These
Yes,
videos are at least an hour long,
the editing is insane.
and the editing is really where it eats up your time. So I had one video that I just released, this my most recent one, about making the Northern Paiute bow and arrows. It took me 5.5 years to do it. I was the one who filmed it. I did all the editing. I did the narration, selected the music, had to put all of this stuff together, and I had to fly across the country from Atlanta to Oregon 5 times in order to get enough footage to complete this video.
I spent hunting. I was in a hunting camp in Illinois with a bunch of guys that were making video for. Oh God, who was it for? It wasn't Bill Jordan. It was. Oh God.
One of the big outdoor guys, I guess.
Yeah. He was there,
Okay.
and I sat down with him. We're having a couple of beers, and I had to ask him. I said, "Dude, what does it take to put together this 30-minute segment I'm watching on the Outdoor Channel?" And he goes, 2,000 hours of footage
Yep.
or more. I
Yep.
was like, what? He goes, yeah, I got to shave down 2,000 hours through editing
Yep.
just to give you a 30-minute segment with commercials. I was like,
Yep.
wow, that's amazing. People don't realize what it takes.
No, they don't. And for example, like this, the Paiute bow, Northern Paiute bow video that I just finished and
Mhm.
released. I think I had over 1,800 clips of video that I had to go
Nuts.
through, and I had to go through every single one of them
Mhm.
and load them onto a hard drive and then select out what I wanted and lay it in a timeline in a way that it flowed, that it kept the viewer's
Mhm.
attention, because you can get if you're not if you don't present it in a way that keeps people's attention, as soon as you lose them, forget it, they're
They're
gone.
gone. They're
It
gone.
takes a hell of a lot to try to get them back. So I made the video so that it would instruct you on how to make these weapons. We looked at some authentic artifacts in the University of Oregon Museum of Anthropology. Steve Allerley, really good friend of mine who is an authority on this stuff, got in touch with the museum curator over there and scheduled an appointment. We drove all the way over there and looked at all the stuff that had come out of Roaring Springs and Catlow Cave, that was Northern Paiute, probably could have been 500, 800 years old. Fragments of bows and arrows. We looked at private collections too. Um, and unfortunately, all the stuff was fragmented, but we had enough knowledge that we were able to piece it back together, and so we could make the bow and the arrows. But yeah, it was 1,800 clips of video that I had to put together. Now the video itself is like almost 2 hours long. It's right about
Mhm.
2 hours, and then the second half was all hunting. Was most of it was hunting. So we're shooting squirrels, and I'm going to Oregon, and I'm going to Texas, and I'm going to here in Georgia, and I'm going all over the place trying to get video footage so that I can get some kills on video.
Right.
Because it's one thing to make a bow and make an arrow and shoot it into a target, but to
Sure.
take that stuff out into the wilderness and actually harvest an animal with a weapon you made that's primitive, that's copying an old one, it's a hell of a lot of work and a hell of a
Yeah, it
lot of
is. Yeah, it is. Now, are you self-funding yourself or you have sponsors?
yes, yes. I don't have any
Yeah.
sponsors.
Yeah. I've
Nobody
got, like
sponsors
in the
me.
beginning, I said I got sponsors, but yeah, I'm self-funding. Um,
Yeah,
People are like, how come you don't edit? I'm like, edit what? There's nothing to edit.
yeah.
I don't curse anymore. You know, um, it's just one of those things. So let's talk about bows. Let's switch gears and let's talk about
Okay.
something that's dear to your heart. When you decide on a particular bow build, is there a favorite bow you like to build or disfavorite?
Yes, it depends. I have a bunch of different favorites, I guess. I guess it kind of doesn't answer your question. It depends on what I'm doing.
Right.
So let's say I'm making just strictly a hunting bow, um, something for big game, deer and whatnot. Then I usually will I'll go with a long bow, about 60 for me, about 65 inches long, 66 inches long. I have a long draw, of a 30-inch draw. So I have over experimentation over time. I've found that about that length, about 66, 65 inches long, gives me the best performance. It's compact enough that it's at least somewhat transportable. Gives me, but it's good and it's accurate. Um, so I like to make those if I'm doing something specifically. Like for example, if I when I went to South Africa. I had to make a 55-pound Osage longbow. So did that. And we can get into that later. I'll tell you all about that. So I went over there with primitive gear and was hunting with my primitive stuff over there. But I also like some of the West Coast stuff. Some of the Paiute stuff is really cool.
Mhm.
Those bows are shorter. So they're a little more compact. They're usually made out of juniper. They're sinew backed. Often,
Right. Juniper seems to be a big wood in the West.
yes, and it makes a really good bow, especially if it's sinew backed. People don't realize that juniper is a really it's an underrated bow wood, especially when it's sinew backed. It seems like those two were made for each other, sinew and juniper. I
Hmm.
also like to make copies of the Northern California Hoopa Yurok paddle bows. They're really pretty. They're really cool because of the way they bend backwards. And I've seen some original
So
Hoopa.
basically, they have a natural backset.
Yes, they have a natural backset, but some of these things, the backset on them is so extreme. A damn thing looks like a horn bow.
Okay.
I mean, they come way backwards like this. It's like, man, how the hell did they even shoot that thing? How'd they even get a string on it? I mean,
Hmm.
because you would have to have that thing so
Right, to pull it
pre-stressed,
down.
bend it all the way around to get a string on it. I don't know. I don't know how they did it. I mean, I've made some of those and I've replicated them, and I cannot equal the amount of reflex that those bows have. So
Hmm.
there's something in my construction technique that doesn't copy what the old guys did. I mean, I can get them
Okay.
close, I can make them look like the originals, but as far as taking that U wood and bending it backwards,
You think they
maybe they
used,
did it while
did
the wood
they,
was,
did they use heat? You think they may
well, I
have used
think
heat?
they could have. It's hard to say. Maybe they made a bow while it was green or partially green. And I have
Gotcha.
heard that where when they would carve that out, they would essentially sinew back it, put it in a sweat lodge somewhere that was somewhat cool and
Right.
dry. So it would dry slowly. And as that sinew dried, it would pull the bow
It brings it
backwards.
right. Yeah, I get that. That
Or
makes
they could have,
it makes physics wise, it
yeah.
makes sense.
Or they could have strung it backwards too. And I've done that also, where I've strung a bow backwards. And so in a way, you preload that sinew. So when you
Hmm.
put that sinew on and then you finally take that string off after it's dried, that bow wants to come back, but the sinew is holding it up. And so
Hmm.
I think you get a lot more performance out of it. And that might have been something that they did back then. But those little bows were pretty much specialty bows. I think a lot of times they were hunting out of blinds.
Okay.
Ishii mentions in some of his Krober's writings that Ishii said that there were piles of rocks where the Indians would sit behind them just enough to break up their outline. And if they had people down in the bottom of the canyon driving the deer up, these guys would be waiting up at the head of the canyon. They'd have archers placed in there strategically. And boy, once they came in, then they'd just shoot them at close range as they came by.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And Ishi, as everybody knows that follows this podcast, is the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the ambassador for everything we do. Um, so wood wise, in your bow making, any favorites?
I like Osage.
Okay.
Osage is really good if you just want to make a simple bow, high performance. I also did a video with Thad Beckham and Keith Shannon on the fire hardened whitewood bows. And I'll tell you,
Okay.
those things, I've never made one, but I've shot the ones that Keith Shannon has made, and they are exceptional as far as performance. They're fast, they hold a back set.
So
They
the idea behind fire hardened is basically you're heating up the wood so the cells, if you will, they constrict.
yes,
Am I correct?
yes. And you heat it on the belly side.
Okay.
So there are certain woods that work really well for this, some that are not, that don't work so well. And there's a lot of experimenting still needs to be done. I know Mark St. Louis did a chapter in the Bowyer's Bible about heat treating the bows, and he uses a heat gun, which works. But this is taking it to another level. I think the heat treating with a heat gun does work, but the problem is that you cannot generate enough heat consistently over a period of time to really effectively cook the wood the
Mhm.
way that Keith Shannon came up with. So um, with that, the 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 when you fire harden the belly of the bow,
Mhm.
you're essentially plasticizing those wood cells, making them harder, and it makes it more resistant to compression. So
Sure.
it also makes the wood hydrophobic. So it does not have a tendency to absorb moisture. Whitewoods like hickory, especially
Oh yeah.
down here in the humid southeast or in the East Coast, even in the Midwest, it will absorb humidity from the air and it can affect its performance. But if you fire harden that bow, it
Done.
it will not absorb the moisture, and the moisture will not affect it nearly as much as it would if it was raw wood.
Right. By constricting the cells, you're basically creating a barrier.
Yes, yes.
So bow backing. Let's go to bow backings. What's your favorite bow backing? Sinew, obviously.
I like sinew. I mean, if you can get away with not having any backing on a bow for ease of construction, uh, go with a self bow, you know.
Hmm.
But as far as backing, sinew's good. Rawhide I like too because
Hmm.
it's just one and done. You know, you just lay that rawhide on there, let it dry, and it's as good a strong a backing as a layer or several layers of sinew.
Have you done any hickory backing?
I have not. I don't do any of the laminated stuff. I don't have the machinery and the
Sure.
planers and all of that to do it. So that's an aspect of bow making that I've never gotten into.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I played with them all. Um, sinew wrap, the whole 9 yards. All right, I got a stress fracture. I got to do a sinew wrap. Makes for an ugly bow when you get a bunch of wraps going on a limb. So let me switch gears again. I told you I was going to switch gears.
Let's do it.
All right. I was first introduced to you through Naked and Afraid and I-Caveman, all
Okay.
on the Discovery Channel. How did that happen? I mean, because it was like I'm just channel surfing with my wife one night, and then I see two naked people walking around. I'm like, this is cool, And I'm like, here's a guy who's built like a brick shit house, excuse my French, and a young lady, and they're naked in the middle of Louisiana
Yeah.
during the alligator mating season,
Yep.
and they've got to survive this. And there's moccasins everywhere because I got them
Yeah.
here. They're everywhere here. I'm in
Yeah.
Florida, so you're not far from me.
Okay.
How far are you from Florida? 3, 4 hours?
About probably, yeah. From the Florida state line, I think I'm about 4 hours, something
Yeah,
like
I got friends in Savannah, so they're
that.
about
Okay.
three. They're 3 hours from me.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I mean the South has their poisonous snakes, and they're
Oh yeah.
everywhere. Uh, so how did this come to be? Did you apply for this, or did they come to you?
Well, they came to me. I had done a show, like I mentioned earlier, the I-Caveman show, which they
Right.
found my YouTube channel. And I didn't realize this, but they said that there are talent agents. I mean, if you think about it, YouTube is a bunch of people posting content, and it's one of the biggest talent pools that you can find. So if you
Sure.
search and stuff, you can come up with this. I didn't realize there were executive producers and all kinds of people on there looking for new talent. So they found my website or found my YouTube channel and messaged me about the I-Caveman show. And so I did the show. And then I guess I made an impression because about a year later, they messaged me about another survival show. They said, we only want people who really know what they're doing. And you really showed in the I-Caveman show that you walk the walk and talk the talk, and you are skilled at what you do. So they said, we're coming up with this new show concept, and they told me about it. Said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so I agreed to do it. And at first they were going to send us to Florida somewhere. They were kind of vague about it, but then about 10 days before our show, we were supposed to depart. They said, no, we're changed the destination. Now we're going to Louisiana.
Perfect.
But okay, so flew out to Louisiana. This was in May, and we were right outside of Baton Rouge, and we met up with the crew and all that, and then I think we did a real quick crash course on basic survival stuff.
Hmm.
Then the next day we went out there and survived for 3 weeks. And what's funny is it was actually one of the coldest Mays on record that they had.
Wow.
So they had a cold front come through, and for the first 2 or 3 nights we were there, the temperature was dropping down to 48 degrees at night. So
Well,
imagine
without any food in your body, man, that's cold.
no food, no clothes, and we had to keep that fire going.
Mhm.
Um, so people ask, is what happened on that show, if you've ever seen my episode, is what
I
happened.
watched it. I've watched it 300 times.
They said it is what happened on that show? Was there any doctoring of the show? And I can say, at least on my episode, no. Everything that we did on that show happened organically. What they
Mhm.
showed is what happened. Actually, the executive producer said, "My God, I wish we could have do a 2 hour special because if we were going to do a 2 hour special as a grand finale or the season finale, we wanted your episode to be
Yeah.
the 2 hour because so much stuff happened and they had so much good footage, but they had to chop it to fit
Yeah.
into that hour segment, and so it was
I
one
mean,
hour.
from when I watched it, I'm like, okay, well, you were doing stuff, she was doing stuff, and there were freaking moccasins everywhere. I'm like, holy
Yeah,
shit.
and they
So,
they didn't show half the snakes we ran into, Rich. There were
oh,
there were a lot more out there.
were there any cane breaks
Nope, never saw any cane breaks. It was all water moccasins.
and black snakes, of course, and whatever?
It was water moccasins and garter snakes, water snakes, but a lot of water moccasins, more than I've ever seen. And what's funny is when the wind would shift because it was their mating season, you could actually smell them. They have a
Really?
musk that the males will release from their vent, and you can smell them. And every time that wind would shift, if I would get a scent of them, I would immediately be scanning the ground looking for them because I knew they were close.
Okay, because I'm a snake guy, and I have conversations with dudes all the time, and they're saying like, well, copperheads from you know, copperheads I'm familiar with because I'm from up north, and we've got a lot of copperheads in Virginia and Maryland and whatnot, and apparently they give off a scent that smells like cucumber, stale
That's what,
cucumber.
yes, it's what I've heard too. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm familiar with that smell, and I've been hunting here in Florida, and I've come across copperheads. I just give them a wide berth, and they're
Mhm.
not like people are like, hey guys, they'll chase you. No, guys, they don't do
No,
that. They don't
no,
do that. They want to get away from you just like you want to get away from them.
exactly. Yeah.
Give them a wide berth, and they will leave.
Yeah. I've never run into a venomous snake of any kind, even rattlesnakes or
Hmm.
cottonmouths that have ever approached me or shown any signs of aggression. Even the canebrake rattlesnakes that I've run
They're
into here,
beautiful. They're beautiful.
they're some of the prettiest rattlesnakes. I don't care what anybody says, they're gorgeous. Um, but they really are a docile snake. If you just leave them alone and don't mess with
Yeah,
them, you're fine.
yeah. I see videos and content online. This guy's name is David and Venturin, young guy, and I'm waiting for him to get bit because he's a little nuts. Um, he's the other day he's there. He's holding a baby copperhead. Well, I was yeah, youth and a juvenile. I said, well, that dude's packing a punch, you know, and he's like, it's like 2 inches from his face.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, stop. Put it away.
yeah.
Just put it down. Just because you want video content, you're putting yourself in harm's way. And that
The
snake
stuff
just,
that, yeah.
no, the snake wants to get away, just wants to go home.
Yeah. The stuff people will do for content nowadays and put themselves at risk. I mean,
Nah,
it's ridiculous. And free handling venomous snakes is asking for trouble.
yeah, big time.
Would never do that. I've seen guys on YouTube doing it. I saw one guy where he was free handling a king cobra, and the
Yeah,
damn thing spun around and bit him on the finger, and it
lost his finger.
yeah, he lost his finger or part of his finger, and it's permanently locked into this position
Is his
because
name Tyler Nolan, the tattoo
yes,
artist?
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah,
lost half a finger.
yeah. It's like, man, just I mean, I know he's trying he wants content and he wants people to watch his stuff, but
Yeah.
I know another guy named Willie Beard. He's out of South Carolina. He's got a
Mhm.
YouTube channel called Venom Central, and he is all about the care and the safety. And he says, I've had these other guys contact me and want me to come down and do some crazy stuff. And he's like, I don't want to be associated with y'all because you guys are a spectacle. But see, the other thing is that you got government and you've got officials who are seeing this stuff and watching this stuff. And if you see a bunch of people online being reckless, then the government's going to come in and say,
Yeah.
you can't have any more venomous snakes as pets or anything. And
No.
all these people who are hobbyists who keep this stuff, who are good at it, are going to end up having their rights taken away because you
Right.
got a bunch of bozos out there who want clicks and attention. And
Yeah, when I was younger, this is pre-internet. I mean, I had constrictors, I had pythons, I
oh
had
yeah, I have too.
tarantulas. I mean,
Yeah,
talk about a hard bite from a tarantula. Yeah, that'll ruin your day.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing bad ever happened from it, but let me tell you what. So I had a tarantula once that got out of its cage while I was having a house party at my mom's house while my mom and dad were on vacation. So I had like 500 people at the house. It was crazy.
Oh man.
So somebody screwed around with the cage and let the tarantula out. We couldn't find her for like 2 weeks. So my parents were on a trip to Mexico, and man,
Oh,
we were looking for this thing and looking for this thing. So finally my parents come home and I said, I got to tell you something. And I told them that the tarantula got out. We don't know where it is. So my mom goes into her closet to change shoes, and there's the tarantula inside one of her shoes.
ooh,
Luckily, she saw it. She goes, Richard, she's yelling at me.
yeah.
Yeah, that was terrible. So I had to take the shoe. Thank God I just took the shoe and just dumped the tarantula back in the cage. But his name was Irving. we called him Irving, the Jewish tarantula. Uh, but yeah, that was the last time I got involved with any of that. Well, no, I had a python before I got married. My wife says, we're going to get married. You have to get rid of the python. So that was the agreement. So you had I'm going to change gears again because we're on a subject of snakes. So you had a cane break in your house.
Yes, I had one that I had caught that got it was in my bathroom and I was changing the cage. I kept it as a pet for a little while and
Nice.
I had it in the bathroom and I let it out and I was keeping an eye on it and it got down up underneath my cabinet and found a hole in there and went back behind the cabinet and was back there for about almost a month. And
Wow.
I had a camera that a friend of mine had given me. It was like it had a monitor on it, had a cable, and then it had a little camera on the end of it with a light. And so I could put it up inside there. I could, when I pulled the trigger, the light would come on, and you could see the snake was in there just as happy as could be. And so I had to keep the bathroom locked, and I eventually was able to find a way to get in there, and I was able to get him out. And I kept him for a little bit longer. Then I ended up taking him to South Georgia and letting him go. But
Now, when you got him out, did you have to use,
he
did you
just
grab him behind the head or?
no, no, I just he was in a narrow corridor about like that. And so
Mhm.
I had a long metal hook, and I was just able to get in there and pick him up and pull him out of there. And he didn't rattle, he was really
He
calm.
had to be hungry
Well, he what happened was
because
actually
they usually eat a month in between.
yeah, but what happened was he had gotten out and I had fed him probably a few days before.
Okay.
And so he had no need to get out. He was happy as could be, like staying in that dark area, and he
Yeah.
stayed there and wasn't going to come out until I had to go in there and
Because
get
I
him.
remember the pictures and I remember they were online. I said, man, that's a good looking snake.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty. They're pretty snakes,
Yeah,
but
they're beautiful.
yeah, I was like, I don't want to keep that thing in here. So I probably,
Well, I'm sure your girlfriend's happy that that thing's gone.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't want that in the house. So let's talk about hunting. Tell us of a favorite hunt with primitive equipment.
Wow, I got a lot of them.
Well,
Um,
one that stands out in your mind that's unusual and not controversial. That's not a good word. Something that like blew your mind.
memorable.
Yeah.
I went to South Africa in 2023 with,
Yeah.
with my primitive bow, stone-tipped river cane arrows, and I'd actually made the points to replicate some prehistoric points that came from sub-Saharan Africa.
Sweet.
And was using a 55-pound Osage bow, and I downed a kudu with one shot with one of those stone-tipped arrows, and the he came in. It was three bulls, and this was the one big dominant bull. And he was feeding in front of us. We were in an elevated blind, and the guide who was with me said, "That's the bull. You want to take him when you get a shot." He gave me a shot on his right side, and I drew back and let it fly, and it hit him perfectly. And he spun around and took off running. And he says, "Man, did you see the other side of that kudu when he ran off?" I said, "No." He said, man, that arrow was sticking out about a foot on the other side after you shot
Blood
it. I said,
everywhere.
really? And so he took off and he ended up running about maybe 140, 150 yards, kind of in a half loop, and then collapsed. And that was it. So everything on that bow and those arrows was primitive. The point was set in in the arrow with pine sap glue and a wrapping of deer sinew.
Sure.
And the feathers were attached with sinew. Everything. The only thing that wasn't primitive on that bow was the bowstring.
Okay.
The bow it wasn't even finished. It still had tool marks all on the handle. But
Sure.
with a 55-pound bow, I was able to down a kudu in South Africa. And then I returned back 2 years. No, actually, sorry, that was in 2021. Then I went back in 2023 and I got another one. And this one I shot with same kind of setup, 55-pound Osage bow, river cane arrow, stone point. Actually, the point was obsidian. And on this one, I buried the arrow up to the feathers on him.
Mm.
He took off running, and this time when he spun around, I could see the whole front of the arrow was covered red in blood. And he took off, ran about 80 yards, and collapsed. And the guide was just like, they couldn't believe it. They
Yeah,
said,
right.
we've never even heard of anybody coming to Africa to hunt with basically a Stone Age bow.
Well, they obviously don't know their history because the Stone Age arrow and bow and all that's it's there. It's documented.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
they're native people hunted
Yeah,
with this
oh
stuff.
yeah. I think some of the earliest evidence of archery gear in South Africa comes from a place called Sibidu Cave.
Okay.
And they were finding some projectile points in there. I believe they were leaf shaped points that they date to around 70,000 years ago.
That's amazing.
So yeah, people, and the thing is that people think that the Stone Age stuff isn't effective.
No, it is absolutely effective.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm going to South Africa, and it's funny is a lot of times people will go if you're going to go all the way to the other side of the planet and you're going to hunt big game like wildebeest, you're going to have the baddest compound bow, you're going to have the fastest carbon fiber arrows, you're going to have the most expensive
sure.
steel broadheads that have been proven time and time again, and your bow is going to pull 80 pounds. Well, I'm over there with essentially a slat of wood and river cane arrows with stone points, and I'm down in these animals just as quickly and as effectively as the most expensive modern compound bow.
So you see that turkey tail up
Oh,
there?
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay. I killed that with a John Strunk self bow
cool.
and a soapstone head. The head
Really?
is mounted to the bottom of that plaque.
Oh wow,
I can still shave with that head.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's how sharp it is still.
Yeah.
One shot, one kill. But yeah, it's one of those things. You know, those were back in the day when I was psycho into all
Mhm.
that. Primitive
Yeah.
Archer magazine. I was ready. Brain tanning leather. It was
Yeah.
crazy. So, have you done brain tanning?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've done a lot of brain tanning. I helped my girlfriend make a buckskin jacket a while back. This is something she's always wanted to do as a little girl, but she didn't have any idea how to do it or what to do. And she mentioned it to me, and I was like, it's kind of ironic we met. I said because I know exactly how to do it, and I've been doing it for years, and I can walk you through the process. You won't get stuck on anything. We'll make the buckskin. It'll turn out soft. We'll smoke it, we'll cut it into a jacket and we'll sew it together and we'll do it. And so we did. And
That's cool.
oh, she loves that thing. She
You
loves it.
guys have been together for a while.
Yeah, yeah, it's been well, I've known her for a couple of years. We've been together for a little over a year,
Hmm.
a little over a year. So
So she's ate up with it too.
oh yeah, yeah, she's a bow hunter, and that's when I first met her. She was a bow hunter, and
Yeah.
we started talking bow hunting, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's kind of where we bonded over that, and then just grew
She-
from there.
so she's a keeper. I've been
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this is my second marriage, and I'm with Lissa 40 years. And
Oh wow.
first time I took her bow hunting, I didn't, it was dark, of course. We're going in a tree stand. I said, you're going to put you in my favorite tree. 10 pointer's going to come in, going to walk right under you at 9:35. So I'm in the woods. I'm watching her with the binoculars. Here comes the buck. 9:35, like clockwork. And I was
Yeah.
like, why is she not standing up for the shot? Why is she not? She's reading a book. Never paid attention to the buck. Walks. I
Oh,
shot the buck because it came in and walked past me.
okay.
So that was the last time she bow hunted. That was like a long time ago, like 35 years ago. But she goes, I just wanted to be out here just because you wanted me to. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I lucked out. I married a gal that comes from Wisconsin, and she totally endorses the bow hunting mindset. So
Hmm.
that's a good thing. I
Yeah.
stink at fishing, so she teaches me fishing.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So in your niche, are there any heroes?
Hmm. Fred Bear, I mean, obviously,
Right.
I mean, he was kind of the pioneer. Some of the old guys, Art Young, Saxton Pope,
Is
Ishii,
she? Right.
yeah. Steve Alley, really good friend of mine. Gotten to be really close with him. He's taught me a lot. Hell of an artist, hell of a bow maker, hell of a flint napper. And he's helped take my flint napping to the next level.
Right. We're going to talk
Um,
about that.
yeah, and let's see. I'm sure there's other people that I'm missing, but those are the ones that come, that and Jim Ham was another
Oh
one.
yeah.
A lot
Oh
of the
yeah.
guys from the Bowyer's Bibles who wrote or wrote chapters in there, contributed to all that stuff, all that
Yeah, I was
knowledge.
a big Jim Ham guy. Jim
Yeah,
Ham. Yep.
yeah. So yeah, I'd say off the top of my head, that's who I can think of right now. Byron Ferguson, love watching him shoot the longbow, and I met him a couple years ago at a gathering down in Florida at a hunting show.
Okay.
So got to meet him there and watched him do some exhibition shooting, and it was cool. It was really cool to meet him.
Are you familiar with a guy named Jack Harrison? He's from Alaska.
No, no.
He's I guess I interviewed him, and he's kind of like a astrophysics guy. And he has a book out that's about, yeah, I mean, dude, this thing must weigh 20 pounds. And it's a book about building bows, but using astrophysics.
Oh
It's
wow, okay.
very different. You might want to Google it. He's out there, and the books are still available, but it's interesting, dude. And he makes laminated bows, but I know he knows how to do what you do.
Hmm.
And but he applies astrophysics to it all. It's just insane. Um, but at any rate, I mean, so let's talk about your flint napping because I've seen your stuff and it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Different colors. What is your favorite stone to work with,
Hmm.
especially for colors?
For colors, wow, there's a lot of different ones. I really like Brazilian agate. If you can get a good piece and it's
Mhm.
cooked and it's glassy, I love Brazilian agate
When you
straight.
say cooked, what do you mean by cooked?
Well, the heat treat it. So
Okay.
what they would do in prehistory is if you had a tough piece of flint, oftentimes they would bury it under a fire, run a fire for a day, day and a half, heat the ground up slowly, take that stone to a temperature of anywhere from 400, 450 to 550 degrees usually, and then let it slow down coolly and let it cool slowly. And what it does is it transforms the stone. It makes it easier to chip, makes
Okay.
the edges sharper, and it makes it more glassy. They call it heat treating or cooking.
Sure. Okay.
Um, but it also makes the stone a little weaker. So you want something that's
So
I like
basically, it's brittle.
it becomes more brittle. Yeah, instead of real grainy and tough material, it actually
Mhm.
becomes easier to work. And it was done in prehistory too. So Brazilian agate in its raw form is tough, man. It's just grainy and you can't really do much with it. But if you cook it, it will accentuate the colors. Sometimes the colors will change in the stone and it will
Okay.
make glassier, sharper, and easier to work. And so I like that. I like Brazilian agate. A lot of times it'll have bands in it that looks like tree rings in it. Beautiful stone. Um, Mookaite jasper is another one that comes from Australia that is very colorful as well. Red, yellow, white, purple, sometimes various colors all in there. Red, white, and yellow I've seen. And let's see, there is a stone. It's one of the first stones I ever worked. It comes from North Georgia, and it's come from a small area. It's a localized area, but a lot of the Indians here in prehistory used it. And I remember finding little chips of it on prehistoric Indian camps. And I
Mhm.
said, man, what is this stuff? I want to find it. Well, years later, my dad and I actually found it after going to a mineral museum. It had directions on where you could go to different places in the state to collect these different rocks. And they told of this black flint. So we went up there and lo and behold, oh my gosh, this was the same stuff the Indians used. And I love that stuff. It works really well. It's very high quality. It does not need to be heat treated. It's almost forgiving, but it creates a really sharp edge. And I actually
Mhm.
killed my first deer with that stone. And that was something I wanted to do. It took me 7 years to do it, to hunt.
Okay.
But I said, I'm going to kill a deer and I'm going to kill it with this black flint. And I'm going to get him with one of these stone points that came from North Georgia. And so I did. Like I said, it took me 7 years, took a long time.
I think you wrote an article about that, if TBM.
Yes, I think I did. Yes.
Yeah, because that's how I know of it. Um, yeah, it's funny because I have stacks. Actually, TJ Conrad says I've cornered the market because I have quad triples and quadruples of every issue since its inception
Oh, wow.
in boxes in my garage. And I was like, I don't know, I just buy them up. But at any rate, and that but so as we're winding down here, what's in store for you for the rest of 25 into 26? Any crazy hunts planned or?
Nothing really planned at the moment. Probably just going to do some local hunts around here.
Mhm.
Planning at some point to probably go back to South Africa. Um,
Okay.
I really would like to get a baboon.
Wow.
I've gotten two kudus. I've gotten a blessbuck, a nyala, and a wildebeest. And everything over there I took was with stone points. Would like to get an impala as well. So they're really
Okay.
um, so yeah, at some point I'll plan a trip to South Africa. Nothing concrete yet, but that's
Are
one of
you familiar with the name Tink Nathan?
no.
Tink Nathan's 69, deer lure.
Oh, Ting. Oh, 69. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I know Tink personally, and we talked at length about shooting baboons. And when you shoot them, they scream like a human being.
Really?
Yeah. It's so you be prepared for the uh curling moment.
Okay.
It's a little disturbing, but whatever.
Yeah, the
You know?
the last time I was out in South Africa, I had a baboon with his back to me at about maybe 6 yards, so close, and I
Wow.
could have sent a stone-tipped arrow right through his back, and I could have downed him. But the problem thing was, we were on another tract of land. We didn't have permission to shoot the
Hmm.
baboons, and um, the we were there to shoot a kudu. They had said, "Oh, we've got a cull kudu. He's not that pretty. If you want to come over here and take him with your primitive gear, we'll give him to you for half price." I said, "Okay, sounds good to me." So we went over there, and the kudu. I didn't shoot the baboon. I would have liked to, but I shot the baboon, they all scattered. It probably would have spooked the kudu. So I just stuck with the game plan, and the kudu came in, and that's the one I downed with the obsidian point. And
Right.
so yeah, so that's probably it.
That's a big animal. I mean, a Nyala is a huge animal.
Yeah, yeah. And I what's funny is I made when my girlfriend came out there with me, I made screw-in stone points that would fit onto the front of her carbon fiber arrows.
Okay.
She shot a kudu with one, and it blew right through that kudu like he wasn't even there. Just zipped right through him. He ran 40 yards and crashed within sight of the blind. Then she shot an eland. So you're
Oh,
looking at
big,
about
huge. Yeah.
2,200 pound Brahma bull with spiral
Damn. Yeah.
horns, and she shot him with one of the stone tipped arrows. And it ended up going in and getting one lung. I think it nicked a rib and it broke the tip off the point, but it was in deep enough that it did get the lung, and he would have died had we just followed him. But it was getting close to the end of the trip. It was starting to get dark. We didn't want to keep tracking him and following him because we had to start getting ready to pack up and head out.
Right.
Think we were flying out the next day. It was either within a day or two. So the guide said, "All right, well, let's finish him off with the rifle." So they did.
Hmm.
But yeah, so she got one the eland with the stone point, and like I said, it would have been it was a lethal hit. It just we didn't want to wait too long, and
Did you guys get to savor any of the meat, or was it
oh
don't?
yeah,
Oh,
oh
okay,
yeah, excellent, yeah, excellent. Eland backstrap's probably one of my favorite. Just
okay.
delicious. You get to eat all different
I mean,
kinds of
that's a big animal. I mean, Jesus,
yeah,
that thing's like the size of this room.
yeah, they're giant. We ate wildebeest, we ate um, kudu, we ate impala, all different kinds of meats, and they're
Sweet.
all very good. You know, it's funny they don't have a real gaminess to them. Hell, I think we even had Cape Buffalo, if I remember correctly. We had a Cape Buffalo that somebody had shot previously. So what they'll do is, if I shoot an animal, oftentimes what they'll do is they might take the select cuts of meat and then we'll eat that. But then if there's other animals that were killed prior by prior hunters, they'll keep that in a freezer and they'll kind of rotate it out. And so if somebody before us, let's say they shot an eland and we didn't get one, we would get eland from that previous hunter's
Nice.
kill. So it's a shame you can't take the meat home.
I know.
But
It's like when I hunt Mexico. I mean, I had there's two girls cooking in the kitchen. I'm bilingual, so I told them, asked them in Spanish, look, if I shoot a couple of javelinas, will you cook them for me? Oh
yeah.
yeah. So we would harvest our game, and we were eating hogs and javelina every day,
Hmm.
lunch and dinner. It was phenomenal. Of course, they did it their way.
How is javelina? I've never eaten it before.
It's excellent as long as they're small.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a big animal, but you'll see some of the centuries that travel with the herd, and these are ugly, man. I mean, I'm talking 50, 60 pounds, dark black and pissed off. They are, that's just their demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
And they're watching over the herd while the herd eats and feeds. And I've been wanting after that's, I told the guys, I'm coming back. I want one of them because I want something to try and kill me,
Yeah, yeah.
and they will. These things will attack you they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You're a problem to them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to be a problem to them. So, it is what it is. But I mean, it was fantastic. And I can't even pronounce what the food was. It was just every day was either corn or flour tortillas. Had your pick, but we would put the meat in there. It was shredded with seasoning, and then I would put sriracha or whatever was
Mhm.
available, onions. Just phenomenal. I was like,
Wow.
and I never got sick. I was like, even drank the water there because it was a
Okay.
300-foot well, so it was coming up out of the ground.
Oh,
Yeah, it was not city water. It was from a well. So
yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're
yeah.
drinking natural spring water.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just phenomenal, and the
Yeah.
terrain was just absolutely beautiful. The only thing was, it's so dry at 6,000 feet
Ooh,
elevation.
yeah,
Yeah, you want. I will now know. I now know to bring saline and Vaseline. Line your nostrils, your nasal passages with Vaseline, and use saline to keep them clean,
yeah.
and you won't have any problems. Yeah, I was bleeding every day. I thought I was a hemophiliac. It was crazy. But at any rate, so Billy, I want to thank you so much for coming on. How
You're
can people
welcome.
get a hold of you?
You can find me on my website, primitivepathways.com. I've got my contact info on there, and if anybody's interested in stone hunting points or anything like that, or museum quality replicas, browse my website.
You're on
And
Facebook too, right?
I am. Yep, I'm on Facebook. It's just Billy Berger. It's Billyllyberger. You can find me there, and I'm also on Instagram at BigBad93 on Instagram.
Yes, I know
So
about these. I follow you quite often.
cool,
Uh,
cool.
but thanks again. I really appreciate you coming on.
Sure.
Um, Before we sign off, I want to tell people love each other, respect each other, take care of each other, and just make the world go round. So,
So
Billy, I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thanks again, brother.
thank you very much.
All right, take care of yourself.
All right. We'll see you, Rich.
All right, bye bye.
All right. Bye.